forward to.
Anyway, so I was jealous. I felt like she stole my brother from me originally, and now she's stealing my dad from me. It was just annoying because I felt like everybody was choosing her over me. And now that I think about it, actually, it's not just my dad and my brother. It's also Sherry as well. Like, yeah, Sherry's her cousin, but like at the same time, all of a sudden I'm not allowed to hang out with Sherry anymore. So who is stealing her from me? Adrian. Well, fast forward to my sophomore year of high school, about a year after we found out all that bullshit, my mom eventually finds out that my dad has been cheating on her with Luna ever since my dad found out that Adrian was his kid. What a grimy piece of shit. And by the way, my grandparents passed away whenever I was like 12. So they left all of like their money and shit like that to my mom, but they left the company to my dad. And they also got the house put into my dad's name and etc. Hold on, I know this seems irrelevant. Give me a second. So eventually my mom gives my dad an ultimatum. She's like, look, either you stop seeing Luna or I'm leaving. I respect that you want to get to know Adrian. I get that now. That's fine. There's no need for you to have a relationship with Luna. And my dad goes, I'm not gonna stop seeing my daughter that you kept from me, blah, 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 blah. And he pretty much gave my mom, my brother, and I the boot. So I guess that Luna had told my dad that the 15 years ago when she showed up at our doorstep, she had told my dad that she did tell my mom that she was pregnant with his kid. And my mom pretty much said that she didn't care. And that's when she threatened her. Which, if I remember correctly, I'm almost positive that my mom did threaten her, but I'm also pretty sure that Luna never said anything about being pregnant with my dad's kid. Also, I can say wholeheartedly that my mom would have told my dad that Luna showed up that day saying that she was pregnant, because my mom is the type of person where if she doesn't have any strings attached to you, she could give two shits less about cutting you loose. So the moment that my mom would have found out that Luna was pregnant with my dad's kid, she would have dipped. I mean, but then again, I think at this time she was pregnant with me. But all I know is that if Luna would have told my mom that back then, she definitely would have went and told my dad. So my mom, my brother, and I, we all go to live with my uncle who lives 4 hours away. And then guess what my dad had the nerve to do? He literally moved Luna and Adrian into our house. Literally the house that my parents got from my granddad when they got out of high school. Like the house where my brother and I grew up.
I know I be doing some fucked up things. What I do? But you did a fucked up bird thing.
How fucking disrespectful. Anyways, so even though this was my dad's fault, you could imagine my hatred for Adrian is still just like growing and growing and growing. Especially whenever I would see her or Sherry post pictures in my room on their stories, or even Adrian posting pictures wearing my clothes.
Everybody getting their ass whooped today. Everybody over in that party is getting their ass whooped today.
That was the best. It was just such a messed up situation, to be honest. But fast forward a few months, the one night at like 2 in the morning, my dad shows up to my uncle's house after no calling or no texting or anything. He's like bawling his eyes out, apologizing to my mom, as he should. And then he comes over and he hugs Will and I, and he's like, you guys, I'm so sorry for everything. I've been such a terrible father. And he explained to my mom that he thought that he wasn't over Luna because she just up and left with no explanation whenever they were teenagers. So he didn't get any closure from that situation, and he thought there were still feelings there. So after talking with my mom decided to give him another chance, and we moved back to our hometown. But my mom said the only way that this was gonna happen was if he sold the old house and we moved to a new one, because she said that she was not about to live in a house that she had been kicked out of for another woman to stay there. Absolutely not. That is disrespectful as fuck. Like, no. So, you know, my dad, he buys a new house for us. But the one thing that my dad did tell my mom was that either he was going to pay for an apartment for Adrian and Luna to live in until Adrian turns 18, or Adrian was going to come and live with us full time. I was not a fan of this at all, obviously, because I had already made up my mind that I hated her and there was nothing anybody could do to change that. But my mom said that she would rather have Adrian come live with us instead of having my dad pay for anything for Luna. She also didn't want Luna thinking that my dad was like still in love with her or something. Also, it was just plain embarrassing if people found out that my dad was paying for an apartment for a woman that he cheated on my mom with. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I would be embarrassed about that too. But I guess that Luna and Adrian had like a month left in our old house, so that way Luna could go and find somewhere else to live, which was nice because this gave Will, my mom, and my dad and I time to settle into our new house, and this gave my dad a little bit of time to focus on us, you know, to try and make things right. And yeah, even though that ship kind of sailed. During this time, thankfully, I was able to rekindle my friendship with Sherry, and she told me everything that happened between Luna and my dad while we were away. And y'all, apparently right after they moved in together, they started fighting 24/7, and she was caught stealing money from my dad. Also, she would constantly talk shit on my mom, my brother, and I for no reason. Also, the one night my dad had came home late from work, and Luna got super pissed off at him for this, so she invited 2 guys over, and when my dad came home that night, he walked in on her doing it with these 2 random guys. Yeah, sis was a f***ing psycho, literally. Anyway, so fast forward, eventually the time comes for Adrian to move in, and my mom had a super strict rule. Adrian's bedroom had to be on the first floor, and my brother had to sleep in the attic, which the attic was finished and everything, so it didn't really matter, but she wanted them nowhere near each other because of the little incest shit that happened in the beginning of the story. My mom did not want no weird shit going on. Anyway, so somehow Adrian and I ended up becoming friends again. Don't really know how that happened. Can't really explain that. But you know, I go back to school and of course, still she is the center of attention. Still really pissed me off. Mainly because no guys would try to talk to me. They were all trying to talk to her. I was really upset about this until this one guy that I had been like on and off with since 8th grade started talking to me again. And we're gonna call this guy Dave. Him and I have a super complicated history, okay? Anytime that him and I stopped talking, it was because one, there was a rumor going around that I was playing him, or there was always another girl that he had his eye on. But finally the one day he had texted me and he's like, hey, like I really miss you and I want to try to be serious. AKA he wanted us to be in a relationship. And I never had a boyfriend. I was always the type that would flirt with the boys, but never want something serious because I just found it more fun to flirt. Except for when it came to him. So you know, him and I started hanging out more, and most of the time he would come to my house, which led to him and Will becoming really good friends. Like eventually if he wasn't coming over to hang out with me, he was coming over to hang out with Will. And that was only whenever I would stay after school to tutor or help out with other stuff at the school, because I was super involved with that shit. But a few months later, Dave tells me that he lost feelings for me and he doesn't think that things are working between him and I anymore. Yeah, which really sucked because I really let my walls down with him. And not to mention, just a few days before that, him and I had sex for the first time. Not only was it our first time, but it was my first time. So that was a huge deal to me. Like after he had told me this, I was feeling super used and worthless, to say the least. Whether it was his intention to make me feel like that or not, I felt awful about myself. And I have super bad trust issues, not even just because of the shit that's been going on with Luna and Adrian, but just in general. So the fact that I let him in and told him things about me that nobody else has known, yeah, that was just this really big deal to me. So I was super heartbroken about this. And throughout the next month, Adrian, that little rat, was always asking me if I liked anybody new or if I was over Dave yet. And finally the one day she asks me again and I tell her no, I'm not over him. And she was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna lie, I really like Dave and I want to date him. I wanted to wait until you were fully over him, but it just seems like you're not gonna be getting over him anytime soon. And I feel like I'm wasting time right now. So I'm like pissed off right now and I'm like, well, he doesn't even like you, you're not his type. And she goes, yeah, he does. And then I like snap my neck and I'm like, how do you know he likes you? Huh? And she's like, well, the one day whenever he came over, he told me. Which now I'm even more pissed off than I was before, because the only time that Dave has been in our house was whenever him and I were in a relationship together.
Cut the show. I'm done.
So this whole time, you've been a snake. Like, you knew exactly why things weren't working out between us. Like, this girl really has no respect for girl code whatsoever. Y'all, let's discuss girl code real quick. Because, child, some women have this shit twisted as, and I know that I've been going on a lot of these rants throughout the story times, right? But this is information / advice that I feel that I have to get out into the world, especially to y'all. Heavy on the advice part, because if I can help y'all out in situations that I've been in, then that's what I'm gonna do. Like, y'all are like my baby sisters, so whether you like it or not, I'm gonna give the advice. Okay. No, but seriously, this isn't advice, this is just discussing girl code. Anyways, so like I said, let's discuss it. So I've been in situations where one of my friends will call dibs on a guy, right? But she will never speak to him ever in her life. She just called dibs on him because she thought he was hot. Because of this, nobody else in our friend group is allowed to go for him, which I would understand if they had something going on. But she would call dibs and never speak about them ever again. Unless one of my friends or I would go for this man. Then she would freak out on us and be like, I called dibs, you're breaking girl code, blah, 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 blah. You know that I liked him. And I'm just gonna say something right now. Girl code is I'm not gonna go for him if y'all had something going on. So to me, in this situation, this man would be off limits to me, especially because he led her on, caused a lot of emotional distress, also pretty much used her to do the nasty. I wouldn't even want to go for anybody like that, to be honest. But if they didn't have anything going on, it's fair game. If you ask them out and they said no, they're up for grabs. I'm gonna go for them still. If y'all went on a date and he wasn't feeling you, those are not your sloppy seconds, babe. That is called he didn't want you and it's fair game. And I know I sound like not a girl's girl for saying that, but like I'm 110% a girl's girl, right? But you have those situations where you'll meet a girl once, like y'all are barely acquaintances, and then all of a sudden they expect their ex or somebody that they like to be off limits. Like, girl, I don't know you. Y'all can call me a terrible person if you want, but last time I checked, that is not my friend. And you were not about to sit here and talk shit on me because we had one conversation and all of a sudden when your ex wants to get with me, we're besties. Like I said, I'm a girl's girl, but at the end of the day, every guy would be off limits if we actually played by those rules. Like, sis, if you ask a guy out on a date and he says no, and your best friend wants to go for him and y'all had nothing going on, you should not be mad at her. There was nothing between you and that guy, okay? Okay. Anyways, let me know what you guys consider to be a part of girl code and what you don't consider to be a part of it. Because I feel like at this point, getting with anybody who has been with somebody is breaking girl code. Anyways, sorry for the rant. Back to the story. Like I said, she told me that she wanted to go out with him and I was like, fine, I don't give a f. Go ahead, do it. Go ahead, I don't even care anymore. Like, just keep taking everything from me, Adrian. See what happens. Keep doing it. So eventually Adrian and Dave start dating, and I have to see them around my house every day. So eventually I start going out with Sherry almost every night of the week, and we would go to like a bunch of parties on the weekends, which was super fun, but I literally had to be out of the house at all times because I just couldn't be near this. Anyway, so fast forward to this one party, I meet this guy who we're going to call Brayden, and him and I start talking, and the whole entire party, him and I are just sitting on the couch, enjoying each other's company, not even paying attention to anybody else. Like, everybody's like being like, oh, come to the kitchen and take shots, blah, 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 blah. And we are not even paying attention. We're just like focused on each other so much, and it was so refreshing. But while we're enjoying each other's company, guess who shows up to the party? Yeah, Dave. And he's screaming my name, trying to find me. Like, where is your owner? Why are you here? And why are you screaming my name? Get my name out of your mouth. Anyways, so he sees me with Brayden. He comes over to us and he's like, hey Brayden, can I borrow her real quick? And like that is one thing. Do not walk up to somebody and ask if you can borrow me. Ask me if we can speak. That's weird. Acting like I'm somebody's property. Like, hey, can I borrow her real quick? No, how about you ask me if we can talk real quick? That's fucking weird. Like, ew. Anyways, so I go with Dave, and he was so drunk I could barely understand what he was saying, but it was something along the lines of he doesn't actually love Adrian, and he just wanted to be with her because they had really good sexual chemistry, which I'm pretty sure is not what you say to somebody that you're trying to get back into a relationship with. Thanks for the honesty, but no thank you. But yeah, what I got from that conversation was he wanted to still be with me, but I decided to call Adrian and tell her to come and get her dog, put it back on a leash. I didn't even care to tell her about what he said because it didn't mean anything to me. So after they leave, I go over to Brayden, and bruh, guess what this man says to me? He's like, yeah, I didn't know that you and Dave used to hang out. AKA he didn't know that we used to be a thing. And I'm like, oh, like we only talked. And then he goes, yeah, but Dave is one of my boys. I can't really do that to him. And then he walks away. Like, what? See, ladies, it's not even just girl code that doesn't make any sense. It's bro code too. It sucks whenever you want to go for someone's homeboy, but you can't because of bro code. And hey, listen to me right now. Before you get to judging me, listen to what I have to say. Hear me out. Don't make that face. I don't mean being in a relationship with a guy and then wanting to go for his homeboy. I mean, you're in a situation where since their homeboy liked you, they can't go for you. Even though you literally shut their homeboy down multiple times and you never had anything with them, they still can't go for you. Like, what do you mean you can't do your homeboy like that? Do him like what? Your man's asked if we could go on a date, and I said no. It just doesn't make any sense. Anyways, so I'm sitting there in complete shock, and now it is my mission to ruin Adrian's life because she couldn't keep her dog on a leash and just stop stealing everything from me. So, you know, she was so in love with Dave. Like, she thought that man was her soulmate. Meanwhile, he didn't like her. He actually was in love with me. He only got with her because they had good, quote, sexual chemistry. And I know you guys are probably thinking, well, maybe he doesn't actually love you. Maybe he was just drunk. No, actually, because I confronted him the one day when he came over and he was waiting for Adrian to show up, and he said that he did mean it, and he was waiting for me to let him know if I felt the same way. Well, then I put a plan in motion to destroy her mentally. As you guys can tell from the beginning of the story, whenever I embarrassed Paris, I'm more of a mental abuser, not a physical one. So I decide that I am going to hook up with Dave, quote, behind her back, but leave subtle hints here and there, and then lie straight to her face whenever she catches me. For example, the one day that he came over, I told him that I wanted to do it with him and he should just sneak into the bathroom and I would meet him in there. So he does exactly what I tell him to do, and I end up telling him that we should probably go to my room just in case she checks the bathroom, which her and I's bedrooms were right next to each other on the first floor. So Adrian ends up going to check on him while she thinks he's in the bathroom. So I hurry up and tell him to get out of my room and go back into her room. So he sneaks into her room real quick while she's checking the bathroom. Oh, and I made sure to leave my underwear right in front of the bathroom door. And then all of a sudden I hear her running back to her room, and she goes inside of her room, slams the door. I'm like listening through the wall, and she's like, where were you? And Dave goes, what do you mean where was I? I went to the bathroom. And she was like, I went to the bathroom and checked, you weren't in there. And then he was like, I don't like this side of you, accusing me of doing things when I've never given you a reason not to trust me. You know, we love the emotional manipulation. We don't like it, okay? We don't. But in this situation, I felt like this bitch deserved it, okay? Okay. So anyways, later that night, I hear Adrian call Sherry, and she's like, I think that Dave and my sister slept together. And then Sherry's like, why do you think that, Adrian? And then Adrian tells her about how my underwear were in the bathroom and how all of a sudden Dave magically appeared in her bedroom. And listen, Sherry knew what was going on, like my whole plan, because I had told her. She didn't approve of it at all, but she wasn't gonna tell Adrian because she knew that Adrian was fucked up for all the shit that she had been doing. So I'm listening to their conversation and I text Sherry and I'm like, you can tell her that we did it. And then Sherry goes, well, do you want me to just ask her? Because you know she'll tell me. And then Adrian goes, oh my God, yeah, ask her. So, you know, Sherry pretends to text me and then she goes, oh my God, Adrian, they did. And then all of a sudden I hear Adrian crying and she stomps outside of her room and starts pounding on my door. And I open the door and she's like, I know you slept with Dave. Sherry told me. And then she starts going on about how, oh, like, you think that you can tell my cousin this stuff and she's not gonna tell me, newsflash, da 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 da, like, newsflash, babe, you're dumb. Anyways, so yeah, she tells me, she's like, I know you slept with Dave, and I'm like, okay, what are you gonna do about it? And she just stares at me with like this blank face, like she was expecting me to apologize or something. And then I was like, exactly, you're not gonna do shit. And I slammed the door in her face because you're not. So yeah, and then she, I'm not gonna lie, I was really a bitch. Like, I really was. Because for the next like month she dealt with, and for the next month she had to deal with listening to Dave and I doing it in my room, which was next to hers. He would be like, oh babe, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and then he would literally just come into my room. Well, eventually she told my mom and my dad, and I got grounded, which I don't really know how that helps the situation, because babe, your boyfriend still disrespected you so badly and you did nothing about it. I disrespected you. I told you to your face that I didn't care that you knew I was sleeping with your boyfriend and you didn't do anything about it. You're pathetic. Also, I don't know how me being grounded is going to help your case, because now I'm just always gonna be home when you and your boyfriend are home. Anyway, so fast forward to my senior year in high school, Adrian and I have kept our distance from each other, and she's still dating Dave. And now I am dating Brayden. I don't know how I pulled that one over, because he was so adamant about this whole bro code thing until Dave told him, listen bro, it's fine, you can date her. Even though Dave is literally still in love with me. But yeah, Brayden and I were in this perfect relationship, but he didn't know anything that happened between Dave, Adrian, or I. And I wanted to keep it that way. So I told Adrian that if she didn't tell Brayden about that whole mess of a situation, I would leave her and Dave alone. Because whenever Dave would come over, he literally would still try to knock on my door and try to talk to me and stuff. So she agrees, and things were going smooth until Thanksgiving. So my parents decided that they were gonna host Thanksgiving dinner at our house, and my whole family showed up, including Adrian and Dave, and Brayden came with me, and then Will had a few of his guy friends over. But Dave and Adrian were over at Luna's house for their Thanksgiving dinner over there, and then the plan was for them to come back to our house. Well, fast forward to later that night, we are all done eating dinner, and I'm at the kitchen sink doing dishes with my dad, when all of a sudden Brayden stomps over to the counter, rips his car keys off of the hook, and he points at me and he's like, you're done. We are done. And so I hurry up and run outside after him, and I'm like, what are you talking about? What happened? And in my head, I didn't even think that Adrian would have told him, because I've left her and Dave alone. But then he goes, I can't believe you've been Dave this whole time. And then I look at him and I'm like, what are you talking about? I haven't done anything with him. Well, then Adrian and Dave storm outside. And then I ask Adrian, I'm like, why are you telling Brayden that Dave and I slept together? And she's like, you told me you were gonna leave Dave and I alone, and you didn't. So that's your fault. And then I look at Dave and I'm like, Dave, why are you telling her that we slept together? We haven't slept together. Why are you lying? Well, I guess that Mr. Dave forgot to throw away some open condom wrappers in his car, and Adrian found them, and she thought that they were because him and I were fucking in his car. So after we all explained the situation to Brayden, Brayden is looking at all of us like we are some sort of fucked up family, and he's like, I don't care, I don't want to be with you. He was like, you're an awful person. And I'm like, you're not wrong, but what the fuck? For him to actually say that to my face, like, that was rude. At least say it over text. After this, I decided that Adrian is done, and I was going to find anything to destroy her. But Dave and Adrian ended up breaking up. Brayden and I, obviously, we weren't together anymore after that shit. But eventually, fast forward, I go to college, and shit for me was going really good there. I had actually started dating this guy named Brent a few months after I got to college, and we were in a perfect relationship. But I go home for Christmas that year to visit my family, and I had no idea that Adrian got pregnant. So she dropped out of college and she moved back home, I think like literally less than a month after she had got to college. Anyways, so yeah, she still lives at home, and I didn't know this, and y'all are never gonna guess whose kid it is. It is Will's kid. Bro, what the fuck? Literally, it's our brother's kid. Half brother, but still. Disgusting. And I would just also like to mention that my brother is a senior in high school. He is younger than both of us. 2 years younger than her, actually, now that I think about it. Now that I think about it, I actually don't know how Adrian was in the same grade as me. Maybe she was just like dumb. Or Luna probably did some weird shit to hold her back so that way she would be in the same grade as me. I wouldn't put it past her. Anyway, so yeah, I found this out because Will told me that he had something that I could use against Adrian, because he knew that she put me through a lot and he feels bad that he didn't do anything about it. So he was like, yeah, no, she's pregnant with my kid. You can do with that information as you want. Please do whatever you want with it. Well, anyways, I did do something with that information, but I also found out who Adrian's new boyfriend was. She was dating some guy named Kyle. I found him on her social media, and I DM'd him and I'm like, hey, I'm Adrian's sister, and I know that you guys are dating and she's pregnant with your kid. I would really love to get to know my niece or nephew's dad. Like, you're gonna be my brother-in-law soon, so I feel like we should go out to dinner, and I should see if you're the right man for my sister. And he was like, oh my god, yeah, of course, I'm always down for meeting people in Adrian's family. I want you guys to all accept me, blah, 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 da, 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 some dumb shit. So, you know, I tell him that we should go to this bar, and we go there and we eat and we talk and we get drunk, and then we go back to my house, and none of my family was home because they were visiting other family for the holidays. So all the lights are off in the house, and we go into, quote, my bedroom. It was really Adrian's, but he was way too drunk to notice. And then we do the nasty in her room, in her bed. And whenever I heard the car pull up, I literally, Adrian bolted in the house. Like, you could hear her pregnant ass running towards her bedroom to open the door, because I made sure that Kyle parked in the front of the house, so that way she knew that when she pulled up, why is my boyfriend's car here at the same time that my sister's home from college? Yeah. So she opens her bedroom door, and I knew her ass wasn't gonna do shit. So I look at her and I'm like, we're busy. Can you close the door? And I was about to get back to what I was doing until less than 2 seconds later, Adrian had a fistful of my hair and she was dragging me down the hallway while I was naked. I'm not gonna lie, I got a well-deserved ass beating that day. And I'm talking go to the hospital ass beating, because she had hit my head off of something and I needed to get stitches in the back of my head. And while we're in the hospital, I decided to spill the beans about Will and Adrian's incest child. And oh my god, my mom just about had a damn heart attack. So my dad was going to kick Will out of the house, but then my mom was like, dude, you do realize that she is a full-on adult. Like, she should know better. Okay? Okay. So then they kick Adrian out, and Adrian moves back in with Luna. Sadly, I would say very shortly after this, Adrian got super heavily into drugs because of her mom. And Will didn't want anything to do with the baby because he soon admitted to us that Adrian actually forced him to sleep with her. Fast forward, Adrian has their incest child, and she actually unalived it because she said voices in her head were telling her to. She's in jail right now. I'm not really sure if she got life. I don't think she did. And as for me, I am happier than ever because Brent and I just celebrated our 3-year anniversary. Okay, everybody, that is the end of today's story time. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up.